All right, so today our main topic is for the greater good. Uh, the relationship between Harry Potter and Greek mythology, mainly between Agamemnon and Grindelwald, because these two people, one in Harry Potter and one in Greek mythology, are both people who sort of supported the greater good and that sort of idea. For example, do you guys know what Grindelwald did and like how he supported the greater good? You guys know like what um acts he did in the name of greater good.
Perhaps no idea about Greenwood.
Yeah, so maybe some of you guys have only read like the original series, not like anything about, or maybe you guys haven't paid attention to some of the other lore that isn't just Harry Potter, because Grindelwald and Dumbledore, they had like a whole they had a lot of
Yeah,
power. And
but Grindelwald, he is appeared in the first book. Do you remember where he is?
do you guys know where Grindelwald he actually
First
appeared?
time
Yeah,
in first book.
he appeared in the first book, The Sorcerer's Stone, somewhere. Of course, like it's not like his character made appearance, but we got information, we heard about him.
在第一本书的时候，哈利波特吃糖，然后那个跳跳蛙卡片上面就介绍了呃他的那个功绩，其中很重要的一项就是打败了格林沃德。Yeah.
On the chocolate frogs, so that these are like one of the magical food in Harry Potter because first book J.K. Rowling wants to introduce us to some magic. And one of the treats Harry gets to eat is a magical chocolate frog. And chocolate frogs also have cards. And that was like a very big idea throughout this. It was like a sort of funny joke she added because her Dumbledore was like, they can demote me from all these stuff, but as long as I'm still on the chocolate frog cards, it should be fine. So the chocolate frog cards also have like a lot of famous magical people on it and also what they did, their achievements. And Harry gets Dumbledore on his chocolate frog card. And it says in his achievements, the defeat of Grindelwald. And Grindelwald was a very famous dark lord, dark magic user. So sort of like the last Voldemort, the one before him. So, of course, one of the defeats of a Dark Lord would be a very famous achievement. It was written down. And that is most of our first time we actually saw the name Grindelwald. If you have seen the Fantastic Beasts series movies, then you may know a bit more about him. But if you haven't, maybe you might have heard about him in the seventh book. It does talk more about Dumbledore's backstory, and Grindelwald grew up with Dumbledore, so their backstories are entwined. All right, let's actually move on from the first side.
Yeah.
Right, we talked about Grindelwald a lot. I'm pretty sure you guys should have a decent grasp on who he is. He's an antagonist who was friends with Dumbledore.
Mm.
All right, so like I mentioned before, on the chocolate frog cards, it said that Grindelwald was a dark wizard, and so was Voldemort, because Voldemort is our antagonist in our main series, the one that Harry Potter fights. And Grindelwald was the last Dark Lord who Dumbledore fought. Dumbledore was able to, defeat Grindelwald and send him to a prison. So that was like the last wizard war. And now Voldemort.
Dumbledore's dead.
Could you repeat that? Okay. All right. So Voldemort is like the Dark Lord of this age, this series with Harry Potter and everything. So they have many, many similarities. For example, like they tend to believe that wizards are, well, at least Voldemort he clearly believes that wizards are superior because like one of his mottos and also the one written in the Ministry of Magic is that magic is might. In the Ministry of Magic, basically the government of all wizards, there is like a giant statue of a witch and a wizard sitting on a throne made out of tiny people that they basically deemed as muggles, which is
Muggles. Yeah.
non-magic people. Like, for example, us, we're muggles too because we can't use magic. So they expressed the thought of magic is written on the base plate. So what it means is basically like the wizards are on a higher social class, on a higher on the hierarchy than muggles. They are more powerful. There is also like a different sculpture which also says that the wizards are above other races as well, such as the elves, the goblins, and etc.
Half-blood is lower than the pure blood.
Yes, of course, the Ministry of Magic would not say that pure blood wizards are higher in status, but that is something that Voldemort believed because he hated muggles. So like anybody with muggle blood, he did not like. Half-bloods, which were half mug, their mom or dad, one of them was a wizard, one of them was a muggle. They would have like decent hierarchy, but pure bloods, basically their parents were both wizards, were both magic people. They would have the highest on the social class. And Muggleborns, which are I guess you could say that they are sort of like a miracle because they are produced by two non-magic people. So they would be at the lowest because they came from Muggles, which Voldemort hates. So that's the ideal world he wants to be in, a world where purebloods are the highest. But in reality, Voldemort too is a half-blood because his dad is also a Muggle, and he hated that fact.
So
So
tricky.
yes, so in the sixth book, he also went and killed his dad because first of all, his dad left his mom and him while his mom was still pregnant, and also his dad's a Muggle, and he wants to be nothing like him.
So, could you please introduce the?
Yeah, next is Grindelwald because we should know way more about Voldemort than Grindelwald because Voldemort, we are introduced to him in the beginning of the story. Everybody is scared of him, but Grindelwald not so much because Grindelwald is like an event that happened a long time ago. Like nobody needs to talk about it anymore because it's past its time. It already finished. So Grindelwald was also like a sort of a dark lord on his own, with the difference of that he was actually originally friends with Dumbledore. They had the same goal, but then Dumbledore saw him going down the wrong path, and so they fought each other. So Grindelwald and Dumbledore were actually very close friends. They shared a lot of their times throughout their life together, and also they shared the common idea of the greater good, which means you sacrifice some a smaller good. And by good we mean like a benefit or like people, because for example, if you were to say that you had to sacrifice one person in order to save five other people, that was like what sort of greater good meant, because you would be saving a greater amount of people by sacrificing one lesser. Of course, this is not a of course you guys might think like why not save them both? But because Grindelwald and Dumbledore always considered that to be impossible to save everybody. So they would, when they get like a choice like that, they would choose which side they think is greater. However, a lot of times this greater isn't what it seems. We will go about that later on.
So, could you please introduce more about Voldemort because he's the main character in
main antagonist.
Yeah, in Harry Potter. So the next.
All right. So Voldemort, we won't be talking that much about Voldemort. We'll just talk about him and not his achievements, of course, what stuff he did, because he will be crucial in comparing to others like Grindelwald. So, okay, let's go through his life. When he was like a very young child, this is actually a very, how do you say it? It's like a timeline, right? This is when he's a child. This is when he attended school. I think this is also when he attended school, but like afterwards,
Almost
yeah,
graduate, I
almost
think.
graduated.
Senior.
Yep, and this is when he lost his nose and became the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
So
I just got here, so
Mm-hmm.
what are we talking about?
We're talking about the greater good, Grindelwald, Voldemort, and the idea of greater good. You haven't missed that much because we haven't talked about Grindelwald all that much. We're talking about Voldemort right now. He's not that important in our class today, so don't worry, you haven't missed much.
Okay.
So starting from his childhood, he has been doing many things such as imprisoning his friends in a very creepy lake. Of course, he didn't kill at this age. He also stole
I
a
think
bunch of stuff.
our students can can share their learning about this. So could you please share us how evil he is? Do you remember?
Yeah, do you guys know what things Voldemort did throughout his lifetime that were like evil?
He blamed Hagrid for like keeping the spider in like a closet or something.
Yeah, he framed Hagrid for opening the Chamber of Secrets. Jeffrey?
Lots of murder.
Yeah, you mean like when he becomes the Dark Lord, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
But
kills like a bunch of people and like tortured Neville's parents.
mhm. Of course, the bunch of people is like a very wide range. There's also some specific things he did. Do you guys remember a specific person or group of people that he killed?
Harry's parents.
Yeah, Harry's parents. That was definitely a very big part of the plot.
And the dumbest parents.
Yeah, he also killed his dad and everybody on his dad's side of the family and framed his uncle for it. He also killed this old woman and took her treasure and framed her house elf for it. He also killed and tortured a bunch of muggles, including he also tortured Neville's parents. Yes, you guys mentioned that. He killed Harry's parents, which basically led to our story. He also killed a lot of other people. And I guess we would sort of count like everybody his Death Eaters killed too, because they were under his command. So I guess that's a lot of evil things he did, right?
So would that count as Fred?
Yeah, I guess we will count that as like ordering mass genocide. All right, so that's like a lot of Voldemort's evil feats. Of course, he did those because he hated Muggles, mainly because he hated his dad, and also he feared Harry Potter and everybody like that. So a lot of his acts were about like his own hate and his own fear.
He has no idea about love. Yeah.
Yeah, he also doesn't have a heart. Kevin?
How did he lose all of his hair?
Could you repeat that?
How did he lose all of his hair?
His hair?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, if you read the fourth book, then you know that he actually died when he killed Harry's parents. So that's actually a new body, which is made using dark magic, so it doesn't look human. And also, he doesn't have a nose.
Yeah, perhaps he divided separate his soul for. Okay.
Well, that's one point. You see, like in the beginning, he looks like a normal child, and then he starts looking darker. And if you look at the third picture, you can see his eyes are like darker. And so one popular theory is that he divided his soul too much, that he doesn't have enough soul to be that human anymore.
But he didn't really die. He just kind of like lost his body.
Yeah, he lost his body, so yeah, he just got a new body. All right, we're gonna stop at Voldemort now because he actually didn't have like any thoughts on the greater good. It's mostly Grindelwald and some others. So Voldemort is just here for us to compare. And did you guys know that like when writing about Voldemort, the inspiration actually came from Hitler? So we're gonna compare some of them because
Don't say that word.
it's just a person. Don't worry, he's dead too. So like it's not nothing's bad's gonna happen. gonna watch a short documentary so you guys have some background on him because it's kind of hard to explain everything when you guys don't know much.
Adolf Hitler was a fanatical leader, a megalomaniac who led his country and many others into the abyss.
Some historians believe that Adolf Hitler thought that his mission in life was to rid the world of Jews. That even if he didn't build the Third Reich for 1,000 years, he would be celebrating for eliminating the Jewish population from the world. I don't know how you begin to deal with that kind of madness, but that's who he was.
Adolf Hitler was born in Braunau am Inn, Austria, on April 20th, 1889. Hitler's childhood was an uneasy one. His father died when he was very young, and he was not a good student.
In his teen years, in his pre-war Viennese life, you start seeing the attractions to the anti-Semitic and rabid anti-Bolshevik attitudes.
His name was not Adolf Hitler, it was Schnickelberger, and he was a corporal in World War I. But suddenly he was the man who was giving voice to a long history of German pride. The consequences of World War I for Germany were extraordinary. I mean, the victors, the Western Alliance, placed such penalties on them that they could barely survive. And so they were open to the idea of someone like Hitler who could give voice to their most base fears, and he very cannily knew just how to do that.
Hitler, very quickly after the World War I, began to engage in political activity, joining and helping start the German Workers' Party in 1919.
This party later became the Nazi Party.
In 1923, Adolf Hitler conspired with other right-wing politicians to overthrow the Republic.
In response to this, Hitler was sentenced to prison, where he wrote Mein Kampf, expressing his radical, rabid beliefs.
He was irrationally anti-Semitic, and he was able to use anti-Semitism as a tool for his rise to power.
In January of 1933, Hitler becomes chancellor. As a result of the fire of the Reichstag in February of 1933, Hitler is afforded wide-ranging police and political powers. He's able really to begin the process of forging the dictatorship, the totalitarian state.
People who thought about international policies were very concerned about what Adolf Hitler was up to. Because you would see those great rallies in the streets of Berlin with hundreds of thousands of people marching in uniform and goose-stepping their way down the Platz and raising their arms in salute to Adolf Hitler. And then he invaded Poland.
He thought the British and the French would not declare war on him, and it would be a quick campaign to subdue Poland. But on September 3rd, 1939, Britain declared war. France followed suit.
In June 1941, Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, starting the largest land war in history. In December 1941, Hitler also declared war on the United States.
World War II was fought on 6 of the 7 continents. 50 million people perished. The United States, Great Britain, and the Western Allies were aligned with Russia to try to crush Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan.
Hitler felt adamant that it was his duty to mankind to rid the world of all Jews, and he ordered all possible resources and manpower to fulfill this horrendous task in the so-called concentration camps, the death camps.
The Allied invasion of Normandy on June 6, 1944, marked the turning point of the war. In less than a year, Germany would surrender to the Allies. An estimated 6 million Jews were killed during World War II.
In May of 1945, Adolf Hitler committed suicide, together with his wife Eva Braun, who he married just before that.
I think of all the tyrants in history, you have to put Adolf Hitler right at the top. He almost destroyed civilization as we know it during the 20th century. I don't think that history will ever forgive him, nor should it. We'll be endlessly fascinated by what A, drove him, and B, why the German people decided to follow him, not just off the cliff, went into the darkest hellhole in history.
All right, so that was like a short background. So do you guys know, or have you guys noticed any similarities between him and Voldemort? Like, what did they do that was similar in like some sort of way?
Wipe out,
Huh?
like Helter wanted to wipe out Jews, and Voldemort like wanted
Yeah.
to wipe out Muggles.
Yeah, they consider a certain type of people to be lesser and their own type to be greater, right? Hitler considered um Jews to be like lesser and at the bottom of the hierarchy, and he also used the Jews as a scapegoat for um the what's it? They're suffering, Germany's suffering, because this was after the First World War. They suffered a bunch of reparations. They had to pay a ton of money, and right now they needed something to direct their hate at. So Hitler, using his beliefs, made a scapegoat. And also Voldemort also hated Muggles, right? That he also ordered a lot of massive murderers to go and kill Muggles. His Death Eaters, he did not like Muggles at all. So what else? What else do you guys think were in common?
They all proud of their names.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps.
Well, this is sort of a similarity and a difference. They both have like titles. Like Hitler is his title is like Führer, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce it because it's in German. It means the leader of their country, right? It's like sort of like their president. So he likes to be called that, and he also expects people to salute to him. But Voldemort, he on the other hand has his name tabooed. Like, in the seventh book, when they said his name, the Death Eaters would automatically know, and that's how they got caught to Malfoy Manor. Also, so Voldemort's house, do you guys know what are Voldemort's names and titles?
The Dark Lord.
Dark Lord. Dark Lord Voldemort.
Tom Riddle.
Tom or Voldemort.
He who must not be named.
He who must not be named. What else?
Tom Riddle.
Yeah, Tom Riddle. Jr. I guess you know who is sort of with he who must not be named, but I guess it's sort of the same thing. But I just added one more.
Taboo.
Yeah, that's taboo. Means like something that must not be said and like something that must not be done. For example, his name is taboo, which means his name should not be said because it's like people is afraid of it. Harry has never been afraid of it. Like he says it, and like everybody in the room winces because they think it's like wrong to say it.
I think 斯莱特林继承人。斯莱特林的继承人。
Oh yeah,
I'm not-
also he
I'm not
calls
sure.
himself the successor of Slytherin. I guess he sort of said that, and he wants to be that, and he sort of is. He's a descendant of Slytherin, and he's also a Parselmouth. Yeah. All right, so
蛇老枪，会说蛇语的人。
Parselmouth is more of an ability than a title, but I guess you could call him a Parselmouth.
Okay.
All right, and also yeah, Dark Lord. Yes.
And I think one same point. They lost their father when they are young. They are so young.
Sort of lost,
Sort of.
lost, not died. You see, when Hitler was young, not that young, around like 14 or 15 or 16, his father died. Yeah, and then he got like, it was, he was like a young child. It's a lot for him to take in. Voldemort, on the other hand, he didn't really lose his father, but like when he was still, in his mother's womb, his father left. And so I guess that made Voldemort hate his father a lot. So around the same age as when Hitler lost his father, Voldemort went and killed his father and his father's parents, the whole side of his father's family, and framed his uncle from his mother's side, of course, for it, because he also wanted to take some artifacts from his old home, Marvolo's ring, which was also, we won't be going into much of the lore, actually. We will just be talking about similarities. Hitler lost his father died, Voldemort killed his father at around the same age. When he was not born, his father left. All right. Okay, so next, there's somebody that's, I guess we could say him is closer to Hitler because they're more similar, which is Grindelwald. And he is also one of our subjects that we will be talking about today because he is actually in the title for the Greater Goods, Agamemnon and Grindelwald. So he'll be our main compare and contrast figure of the Harry Potter side for today.
Wait,
So
is
let's look at
is Grindelwald the brother of Albus?
Grindelwald is Albus's friend at school.
Oh.
Yes. He's the one that
after school when they graduate
yeah, they were friends when they were young.
Yeah.
All right, let's play the video.
My brothers, my sisters, my friends, the great gift of your applause is not for me, no. It is for yourselves. I came today because of a craving and a knowledge that the old ways serve us no longer. You came today because you crave something new, something different. It is said that I hate les noms magiques, the muggles, the no-mage, the can't spells. I do not hate them. I do not. For I do not fight out of hatred. I say the muggles are not lesser, but other. Not worthless, but of other value. Not disposable, but of a different disposition. Magic blooms only in rare souls. It is granted to those who live for higher things. Oh, and what a world we would make for all of humanity, we who live for freedom, for truth, and for love.
It isn't illegal to listen to him. Use minimum force on the crowd. We mustn't be what he says we are.
The moment has come to share my vision of the future that awaits if we do not rise up and take our rightful place in the world. That is what we are fighting. That is the enemy. Their arrogance. Their power lust. Their barbarity. How long will it take before they turn their weapons on us? Do nothing when I speak of this. You must remain calm and contain your emotions. There are auras here among us.
Oh, uh, oh. Okay, I thought that would last a bit longer, but apparently it didn't. But anyway, you see what he's getting at, right? He's saying how Muggles are, well, okay. It says he does not hate Muggles. He says Muggles are not lesser, but other, not worthless, but of other value, not disposable, but of a different disposition. Magic blooms only in rare souls is granted to those who live for higher things. So he's trying to say he doesn't hate Muggles, but it's very clear that he does, right? He's saying it in like a very good way, in a way that makes us think that he doesn't, but he does.
他也曾经说，The Muggle is the beast of burden, will always be necessary. He just said the Muggles is the beast.
Yeah. They said he once referred to the Muggles as the beast of burden will always be necessary. Also, in the middle of this clip, when he spewed out, he also like said that the Muggles are like somewhere around. He talks
disposed of high for all of humanity.
Okay, well, somewhere he has like a place where he spews out smoke, and there's like a bunch of war stuff. He says like that is what they're facing, right? That he says like basically saying that like Muggles are going to end this world because they fight their like stupid wars and stuff. So yeah, he also refers to that about how the Muggle stupidity will eventually lead to the destruction of their world because of wars. All right, we're gonna go on, and you see when he's giving the speech and when Hitler is giving the speech, they even have the same posture in which they're like showing out their hands. I think that's maybe it's not just them, maybe it's a common thing in speech, but like to utilize maybe like that form, they are pretty similar. And also Grindelwald too, he also has like he also doesn't like Muggles either, right? He has made Muggles into the clear enemy of the wizards. And that is something he is similar to Voldemort and Hitler with. They all have made it clear who their enemy is and they have a lot of supporters, right? For example, like how did Grindelwald get people on his side? Do you guys want to take a guess on like why would people follow Grindelwald? Why would people think it's a good idea to have him as leader?
I don't know the story, but maybe like before he was like very, very like good. And then when he like made a new idea, everybody was like, this person is good, so the idea must be good or something.
Yep, so you would think that he has a good reputation, so they would follow along, right? Well, yes. That was like one of the points like before people had mixed feelings about him and Dumbledore, so they claimed they were doing it for the greater good. They also got a lot of power, so I guess that would be right. Okay, Hitler, meanwhile, Germany was in a state of distress because they had to pay a ton of money for reparations in the First World War. So they're still carrying the burden of the debt they owe to many countries. And around the time when Hitler was gaining power in the Nazi Party, the the Great Depression happened in America, the Wall Street crash. And America before that had agreed to give Germany loans for Germany to help Germany pay off the debt. But now, since the stock market crash, America wants the money back, and Germany can't do that. So that's too much for them. They try to print more money, but printing more money doesn't actually give the country more money. Do you guys know why?
It takes money to print money?
Well, like sort of, but you will still get profit. But like when you have a lot of money, its value goes down because there's too much. Before that happened, like one American dollar would be around 4.5 or 4 marks, which is German currency. Afterwards, it rose up to like the billions, one American dollar. And
so difficult for
yes,
a
a
case.
single piece of bread would cost a few, I think it was around a few billion marks too. So basically a hyperinflation. It's not just like 1 to 1,000, it's 1 to millions and billions. So that's hyperinflation, and Germany was like getting in a even more state of panic. And that's when Hitler rose up and tried to stage a revolution, of course. After there was like some bumps, he did not succeed the first time. The first time he marched through the streets, he hoped the police were going to join him, but the police did not, and he was caught. He was going to be sentenced to a life in jail for treason, but the judges sort of liked him, so he got a reduced sentence to 5 years, in which he actually only stayed 9 months. And when we say prison, it wasn't even prison; it was just a vacation for Hitler to write his novel, for his book, not novel. The book Mein Kampf, which was one of his major books later on. If you read any of the novels now that talks about like the Holocaust times or like that time, you would probably see that book and mentioned a ton of times. All right, so we also mentioned how Dumbledore was like a great friend of Grindelwald, and this is his letter written to
when they are young.
Yeah, when they were young, when they believed in the same thing. This book, well, sort of book within Harry Potter, is written by Rita Skeeter. It's called Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore. So this letter talks about own, for example, the capital words for the Muggles' own good. Yes, the own good, and for the greater good. We seize control for the greater good. So they're talking about like their plans of gaining power, but Dumbledore insists that they use it to support the greater good, the good that benefits them the most. And we say greater good, but sometimes it's not really the greater good. Sometimes it's only the good for themselves. For example,
so the Dumbledore says the first time for the greater good mentioned， 就他邓布利多第一次说的。
Yeah. Dumbledore was the person who proposed the idea of the greater good. That is the first time the greater good idea has appeared between them. So Dumbledore actually started it, but he sort of backed out later on because he realized what it was getting into, and he fought Grindelwald over it. Of course, he won at the cost of his sister's life. All right, so this is like a chart because we've been comparing them. Let's look at their, it's in Chinese, so I'll just do a short translation. The first column, we can say like background.
Yeah.
Background. Hitler, his father died when he was 14. His mother died when he was 18. and he's actually half Jewish. So
Perhaps I'm not sure.
well, yeah, it's a
it's real.
speculation. It's a speculation.
I'm not sure it's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Furthermore, his mother and his father's relationship was fake. His mother used the love potion, and his dad just left when his mother got pregnant, and then later he killed his dad when he was like still at school, I think. Grindelwald, we're not really sure, so it's blank for now. Now, this is personality. Hitler was always like sort of like a proud child, but he didn't have a lot of friends. When he went to school, a lot of the kids did not treat him very well. At first, like before, he was okay, but then his little brother died, whom he loved a lot, and then he started social distancing. Voldemort is also like he was also very proud and arrogant. He also didn't have enough friends. Maybe some of you guys might say, like, according to some of the memories mentioned in the sixth book, he did have friends, but no, Voldemort does not have a heart. So those weren't even his friends. He never saw them as friends. He only saw them as servants. Even to his Death Eaters, they are his servants, not his friends. For example, in one of the Dumbledore's memories, when Voldemort went and asked for the job at Hogwarts when Dumbledore was headmaster, Voldemort mentioned his friends waiting for him, but of Dumbledore, Death Eaters, he was like, so you call them friends, not your servants, not your slaves, because that is apparently what Voldemort considers his followers. And yeah, they're his followers, not his friends. Grindelwald was he was a bit more ambitious to seize power for the greater good. And I guess we can also see ambition in Hitler too, but I didn't write that here. Voldemort also does have ambition, but he was more focused on other things. All right. And the other ones, I guess we can sort of just glaze over them. Hitler, his sort of talents, he's really good at making speeches because those were what led the German people to follow him. That was also, yes. So he was able to persuade everybody to follow him, and he's good at timing too, because if it was like any other time, like people would actually take time and think, like, is this guy gonna be a good leader? And they're gonna say no, because he is not. Well, he sort of is a good leader for Germany, but he is not a good person. He's a huge racist. Also, yes, we will, and I guess you guys sort of know Voldemort and Grindelwald are also like very great magicians. And the others, I guess we don't have to go through them because our main similarities and differences are already gone through. The other ones are a bit different. All right, so let's look at the world population. Do you guys know what your country's world population is? This is in 2021. I will explain why we're actually talking about this after. Do you guys know, or do you guys want to take a guess on your country, like the country you're currently in's population without looking at the chart? I'm assuming some of you guys are in Canada, so do you guys know how much the population is?
China, this is inaccurate because China's now second place because India just beat China.
Yes.
Yeah, I was about to say that because India right now is that was not updated. It was because they didn't do a people count now. Yeah, India is probably now first in world population now. Right, so why we wanted to show this is because when there's this much people, there is no real greater good because like all of these people, if they can't decide on something, so like the minority would have to suffer, right? If we say, for example, some people want to let's imagine one of these countries are suffering from overpopulation and they need to kick some people out, right? So those people that are kicked out, they do not get any good, but like the people that are left, they get like a better living. So with this much people and they're gonna cut off like, I don't know, like half, that is like they are giving a benefit to more people, but still a lot of people do not get good. So greater good isn't always good for everybody, but of course, people consider that to be greater. So, have you guys heard of the trolley problem? The trolley paradox?
Oh, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
there. I did the game.
So, if the train is heading towards 5 people tied on the track, you can press the lever for it to go to a different track, but on the different track is one person. So would you do it? Would you pull the lever? Of course, if you believed in greater good, you would not. You would do it because you would be killing one person to save 5 people. But still that person dies. That person that person did ask for this, right? That person doesn't want to die either. So in an aspect of greater good, it's either like everybody gets good, that would be like that would be a perfect situation, which is near impossible, or like a bunch of people have to suffer in order for some people to actually get a benefit. So we showed this chart mainly to show like if you were to exercise greater good on like my overpopulation
That's
example.
impossible.
Yeah. Right. We are quickly running out of time. So there's another example. I'll just like go through this really quick. For example, if you had to decide on 2 people, person A and person B, to invite you to dinner, who would you want? Like this is random, right? You can choose whoever, but none of them actually wants to do this because that's their money they're spending. So, but they're treating everyone, which everyone is a greater good. But that person, if they don't do it, then they're pretty happy, but like we're not, right? Because we didn't get treated to dinner. This is a sort of a small example of greater good. We're gonna go through it really quick because we still have a whole person to introduce. Agamemnon, yes. So if you've been here before, I talked about Agamemnon in the Iliad. We won't be talking about all his plotlines, so we'll just be talking about his 1 or 2 of his plots. So let's watch this video real quick.
In Greek mythology, Agamemnon was the king of Mycenae, and the leader of the Greek forces in the Trojan War. He is presented as a great warrior, but selfish ruler, famously upsetting his invincible champion Achilles, and so prolonging the war and suffering of his men. Agamemnon was the son of Atreus and Aerope from Crete, and brother to Menelaus, king of Sparta. He was married to Clytemnestra, with whom he had 3 daughters, Chrysothemis, Electra and Iphigenia. When Helen was abducted by the Trojan prince, Paris, Agamemnon led the Greek expedition to Troy, to take back his brother's wife. Paris regarded her as his rightful reward, for choosing Aphrodite as the most beautiful goddess in a competition with Athena and Hera, at the wedding of Peleus and Thetis. A furious Menelaus then appealed to his brother Agamemnon, to create an alliance force of Greek warriors, and rescue Helen from Troy. Agamemnon formed a force, with cities such as Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Rhodes, and sailed in a huge fleet across the sea to Anatolia. However, as the ships were ready to set sail, Agamemnon upset the goddess Artemis, when he killed one of her sacred stags, and then boasted he was better hunter than the goddess. As punishment, Artemis becalmed the Greek fleet, and only the sacrifice of Iphigenia would appease the goddess, into granting a fair wind to Troy. Agamemnon offered his daughter in sacrifice, and at the last moment, the goddess substituted a deer for the girl, and made Iphigenia a priestess at Taurus. Finally arriving at Troy, Greeks for the next 9 years spent laying siege to the well-fortified city of Troy. The big event was, when the Trojans attacked the Greek camp and set fire to their ships. Things were not going at all well for the Greeks, and Agamemnon was largely to blame. He had upset the Greeks' greatest fighter, Achilles, when he pulled rank and stole Achilles' war booty, Briseis. As a result, Achilles refused to fight. Agamemnon sent Odysseus to persuade Achilles to rejoin the fighting on the promise of tremendous treasure. Achilles refused, and it was only when his great friend Patroclus was killed by Hector, and furious Achilles helped the Greeks regain the war, by killing Hector. The war still continued on. It was only Odysseus' trick of the wooden horse, which allowed the Greeks to get inside the city, which finally brought the fall of Troy. After the end of the war, Agamemnon returned to Mycenae in glory and with his prize, Trojan king Priam's daughter, Cassandra, where Clytemnestra had started an affair with Aegisthus. The two of them plotted against Agamemnon, and killed him, thus Aegisthus becoming the ruler of Mycenae again. Orestes, Agamemnon's son, later avenged his father's death by killing his mother and Aegisthus. However, this caused the wrath of Erinnys, because he committed matricide.
Yep, okay, that's a sort of overview of Agamemnon. I'm pretty sure you guys will have gotten a lot of the major points of him. So let's look at the first one. Iphigenia, the first thing you guys may have seen about how he shot down Artemis's sacred deer, and the goddess was mad, and they were just about to set off to sail. You know, back then they used sailboats, so they needed a good wind to blow them to Troy. So, or like no one else, they could, or like just like a tiny bit of wind, they could still row, but it would be a lot slower, and they would probably take a long time to reach Troy. So Artemis said, "You need to sacrifice your daughter to me, or else I won't let you leave." So Agamemnon barely hesitated before he said, "Okay, sure," and he takes Iphigenia.
Just think a little while.
It probably wasn't even a minute. It was probably half a minute or something. Not even half a minute. He probably just like, which one? Oh, Iphigenia. So this is the story of Iphigenia. It's a different story than the Iliad. Of course, this isn't said in the Iliad. The Iliad is only the last few days of the Trojan War. It is not the whole thing.
Iliad.
So Iphigenia is then Agamemnon then writes a letter to his wife saying, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have Iphigenia marry Achilles." But no, that's not gonna happen.
Most famous hero.
Achilles is like the most famous Greek hero, so why not? But of course, that was not going to happen. She is not gonna marry Achilles. Instead, she's gonna die, gonna get sacrificed. So Agamemnon was about to do it, and of course, as you've seen in the video, Artemis quickly swapped out her with a deer and then made her a priest. But it varies, because I'm not really sure why Artemis would do that, because she wanted a sacrifice and you got a sacrifice. But of course, different versions vary. Some versions say Iphigenia was saved by Zeus. Of course, some say that in that version, some say she died. Different versions, but mostly the popular one would be that one, the one we just saw in the video. So Agamemnon is sacrificing Iphigenia and his wife's feelings, because his wife would be totally devastated, and his sort of like, you know, his public image as a really bad father, because just for the greater good for them to set sail. So do you guys think that was a good decision for him? Do you think the greater good? I'm just asking, like, because what if there's somebody who thinks it's good?
Okay.
If you were Agamemnon, would you sacrifice Iphigenia? Because honestly, if he didn't, you know, the Iliad would never have been written, you know. They would stay at Greece. So I guess he's sort of doing it for us, you know, for us to see this story. All right, that's one case. That's one case of Agamemnon's so-called greater good. Of course, it's not really great. It's not good either. So another one. This time, it's not even greater good, it's just for his own good. Agamemnon and Achilles. This is said in the beginning of the Iliad, in which they just captured the beaches of Troy.
Of today's lesson?
Huh?
Like, what's the topic?
Greater good. We've been saying that. The greater good. For Agamemnon and Achilles, this is said in the beginning of the Iliad. The very first, well, yeah, a very early conflict between them. So they just took over the beaches of Troy, and they got they captured two Trojan slaves, and they're splitting it between them. But then Agamemnon refuses to give Achilles his share. And he says it's because he's the big general. He's the king of them all, because he's like the leader that rallied them. And so Achilles is only a warrior. So that sort of enraged Achilles, and Achilles refused to help fight, which made the Trojan War last way longer than it should have been. Achilles only came back when his best friend Patroclus died, and only came back for revenge. So in this case, the greater good to Agamemnon isn't even greater. It's only for himself, because he considers himself to be like the king of kings. So he considers himself to be the greater and the greater good. All right, so now before we go, we're gonna watch a video. It's from the movie Troy, if you like want to watch it or something. It's a movie about the Iliad. This part is in which Agamemnon and Achilles fight over. Yeah.
Ignore the politics.
Apparently you won some great victory.
Perhaps you didn't notice. The Trojan beach belonged to Priam in the morning. It belongs to Agamemnon in the afternoon.
Can I have the beach? I didn't come here for sand.
No. You came here because you want your name to last through the ages. A great victory was won today. But that victory is not yours. Kings did not kneel to Achilles. Kings did not pay homage to Achilles.
Perhaps the kings were too far behind to see. The soldiers won the battle.
History remembers kings, not soldiers. Tomorrow we'll batter down the gates of Troy. I'll build monuments to victory on every island of Greece. I'll carve Agamemnon in the stone. My name will last through the ages. Your name is written in sand for the waves to wash away.
Be careful, King of Kings. First, you need the victory.
Your men sacked the Temple of Apollo, yes?
You want gold? Take it. It's my gift to honor your courage. Take what you wish.
I already have. Afarius! Hemon! Spoils of war.
No argument with you, brothers, but if you don't release her, you'll never see home again. Decide.
Guards!
Stop! Too many people have died today. Killing's your only talent, that's your curse. I don't want anyone dying for me.
Mighty Achilles, silenced by a slave girl. Tonight, I'll have her give me a bath. And then, who knows?
You sack of wine! Before my time is done, I will look down on your corpse and smile.
Yeah, okay, that was like, all right, that was sort of like a clip in which Achilles and Agamemnon argue over this, and that is what caused sort of the Iliad to actually be interesting, because if Achilles just went there, if you've read the Iliad or like watched maybe the the movie or something, then you should know at first, like before Achilles came in, they were actually almost on equal grounds, and the Achilles came in and started slaughtering everybody. So Achilles really turned the tides of war, and Agamemnon sort of threw that away. And so in which this Agamemnon's greater good was himself. And that is why like sometimes there is no greater good in this world. It's just your good which you need to care about. Because if honestly, if they tell me to sacrifice for like a bunch of other people, I would not do it. So that's like my advice, because the greatest good is always your own good. That's what you should care about, not anybody else's. That is today. And yes, we have finished talking about the greater good and between the comparison between Harry Potter, Agamemnon, and Grindelwald. They both have like the idea of greater good, yet they both use it selfishly. Yep.